am Victoria Sterling, standing in the boardroom of Sterling Enterprises, watching my sister Rebecca squirm in her executive chair as I announce that her company has just been acquired by mine. 3 years ago, she manipulated our dying grandmother to change her will and stole my $15 million inheritance, leaving me with nothing but a burning desire for justice. Today, Rebecca's about to discover that the failure she dismissed is now her boss, and her first assignment will be clearing out her corner office to make room for mine. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The story that led to this moment of sweet vindication began on a cold November morning in 2019, when I received a phone call that would shatter everything I believed about family loyalty and unconditional love. I was 28 years old, working as a financial analyst at Morrison & Associates, earning a modest salary that barely covered my student loans and the rent on my small apartment in downtown Chicago. My name is Victoria Sterling, and I had always been the quiet daughter in a family that celebrated loud achievements and flashy success. While my older sister Rebecca commanded attention with her dramatic personality and social connections, I found satisfaction in spreadsheets, market analysis, and the logical world of numbers that never lied or manipulated the truth for personal gain. Our family dynamics had been established early in childhood. Rebecca, 3 years my senior, possessed the kind of magnetic personality that drew people into her orbit effortlessly. She was homecoming queen, debate team captain, and the daughter who brought home boyfriends that our parents could brag about to their friends. Rebecca understood instinctively how to navigate social situations, charm authority figures, and position herself as the center of attention in any room she entered. I represented the opposite approach to life. Where Rebecca was spontaneous, I was methodical. Where she was socially aggressive, I was quietly observant. Where she demanded immediate gratification, I planned for long-term success. These differences might have been complementary in a healthy family system, but in the Sterling household, they created a hierarchy that placed Rebecca at the top and me somewhere near the bottom. Our parents, Charles and Margaret Sterling, were successful professionals who had built their identities around social status and public recognition. Charles operated a prestigious law firm that handled corporate mergers for Fortune 500 companies, while Margaret managed marketing campaigns for luxury brands. They understood success in terms that Rebecca embodied naturally and that I struggled to demonstrate through traditional metrics. Family dinners became performances where Rebecca regaled our parents with stories of her social conquests, professional networking successes, and romantic adventures that provided endless entertainment. When attention occasionally shifted to my accomplishments, the conversation quickly returned to Rebecca's more engaging narrative. I learned early that academic achievement and professional competence were appreciated, but not celebrated with the same enthusiasm as Rebecca's more dramatic lifestyle. The pattern continued through our college years and into our professional lives. Rebecca attended Northwestern University on her parents' recommendation, studying communications and building a network of connections that would serve her throughout her career. She graduated with average grades but exceptional social capital, immediately securing positions with prestigious companies that valued her interpersonal skills and natural salesmanship. I chose a different path, attending the University of Illinois, and studying finance and economics, with laser focus on building analytical capabilities that would serve me in whatever career I ultimately pursue. I graduated summa cum laude with a double major and immediately began working as a financial analyst, building expertise in market evaluation, investment strategies, and corporate financial analysis. Despite our different approaches to success, Rebecca and I maintained a cordial relationship throughout our 20s. We were not close confidantes, but we respected each other's choices and gathered for family holidays without significant conflict. I admired her social skills and natural leadership abilities, while she occasionally acknowledged my analytical intelligence and professional competence. The central figure in our family constellation was our grandmother, Elena Sterling, who had been the matriarch of our family since our grandfather's death 15 years earlier. Elena had built Sterling Enterprises from a small accounting firm into a regional financial services company worth over $50 million. She was tough, intelligent, and absolutely devoted to ensuring that her life's work would continue strengthening the Sterling family legacy for generations. Elena had always treated Rebecca and me differently, but not in the way our parents did. Where our parents favored Rebecca's flashy achievements, Elena appreciated my steady competence and genuine interest in understanding how businesses actually function. During family gatherings, she would pull me aside to discuss market trends, investment strategies, and her concerns about maintaining Sterling Enterprises' competitive position in an evolving financial services landscape. These conversations revealed Elena's growing frustration with Rebecca's approach to work and responsibility. While Rebecca had secured impressive job titles at various companies, she rarely stayed in any position long enough to develop deep expertise or demonstrate sustained performance. Her resume showed a pattern of lateral moves, motivated by better titles or higher salaries, rather than genuine career development or increasing responsibility. Elena's concerns became more pronounced as she entered her 80s and began considering succession planning for Sterling Enterprise. The company required leadership that understood financial analysis, long-term strategic thinking, and the patience to build relationships based on competence rather than charm. Elena had spent decades building a reputation for reliability and expertise that could be destroyed quickly by leadership that prioritized short-term gains over sustainable growth. During a family dinner in the spring of 2019, Elena made an announcement that surprised everyone at the table. She was updating her will and estate planning to ensure that Sterling Enterprises would be managed by family members who understood the values and principles that had built the company's success. While she did not provide specific details about her intentions, she emphasized that her legacy would be protected by people who demonstrated genuine commitment to excellence rather than superficial achievements. Rebecca's reaction to this announcement was immediate and strategic. Over the following months, she began visiting Elena more frequently, bringing flowers and expressing newfound interest in family history and business operation. She asked thoughtful questions about Sterling Enterprises' founding, Elena's management philosophy, and the challenges facing family businesses in competitive markets. I noticed these changes in Rebecca's behavior, but interpreted them as genuine maturation and growing appreciation for our grandmother's accomplishment. It seemed natural that Rebecca would develop deeper interest in family legacy as she approached 30 and began considering her own long-term goals and responsibilities. What I did not recognize was that Rebecca was conducting a carefully orchestrated campaign to position herself as Elena's preferred heir while systematically undermining my relationship with our grandmother. She shared stories about my busy work schedule that supposedly prevented me from visiting Elena regularly. She suggested that my analytical nature made me overly critical of Elena's traditional management approach. Most dangerously, she implied that my apparent lack of interest in family gatherings reflected disrespect for Elena's values and priorities. These subtle manipulations were delivered with concern for family harmony rather than obvious self-interest. Rebecca expressed worry that I was becoming too focused on my career to maintain important family relationships. She suggested that Elena needed more emotional support as she aged and that my practical nature might not provide the warmth and companionship that an elderly woman deserved. The campaign was sophisticated because it contained elements of truth that made Rebecca's concerns seem legitimate. I was busy with demanding work projects that required long hours and weekend availability. I did approach family gatherings with less enthusiasm than Rebecca, preferring quiet conversations to large social events. I was more comfortable discussing business strategies than sharing emotional stories or nostalgic memories. Rebecca's strategy exploited these personality differences to create a narrative where she appeared to be the granddaughter who truly cared about Elena's emotional well-being while I seemed focused only on professional advancement. The narrative was false, but it was constructed skillfully enough to influence Elena's perceptions during a period when age and illness were affecting her judgment. The manipulation accelerated during the summer of 2019 when Elena was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer that would prove to be terminal. The diagnosis created urgency around succession planning and heightened everyone's awareness that important decisions needed to be made quickly while Elena remained mentally competent. Rebecca immediately positioned herself as Elena's primary caregiver and emotional support system. She took leave from her job to spend time at Elena's house, accompanying her to medical appointments and handling daily tasks that became difficult as treatment progressed. She created an environment where she controlled access to Elena and managed the flow of information about Elena's condition and needs. During this period, I struggled to balance my professional responsibilities with family obligations. My work at Morrison & Associates was approaching a critical phase with several major projects requiring my expertise and attention. I visited Elena regularly but could not match Rebecca's constant presence or emotional availability during such a difficult time. Elena's condition deteriorated rapidly, and by October 2019, she was spending most of her time at home under hospice care. Rebecca had essentially moved into Elena's house, managing her care and serving as intermediary for family communication. She controlled Elena's schedule, determined who could visit and when, and shaped the context for all conversations about Elena's condition and wishes. It was during this period that Rebecca persuaded Elena to update her will with changes that would transfer the majority of her estate, including control of Sterling Enterprises, to Rebecca rather than dividing it equally between both granddaughters as Elena had previously intended. The justification was that Rebecca had demonstrated greater commitment to family values and would be better positioned to maintain Elena's legacy through active involvement in company operations. Elena passed away on November 15, 2019, surrounded by family members who had been allowed to visit during her final week. The funeral was a celebration of her remarkable life and business accomplishments, attended by hundreds of people whose lives and careers had been influenced by her wisdom and leadership. The reading of Elena's will took place 1 week after the funeral in the conference room of her attorney's office. Rebecca and I sat across from each other at a polished mahogany table while the attorney reviewed Elena's final wishes and the distribution of her substantial estate. The first shock was learning the true scope of Elena's wealth. Sterling Enterprises was worth significantly more than I had realized, and Elena's personal investments had grown to substantial amounts over decades of careful financial management. The total estate was valued at approximately $38 million, representing a lifetime of intelligent business decisions and disciplined wealth accumulation. The second shock was the distribution Elena had specified. Rather than dividing her estate equally between Rebecca and me, Elena had left the vast majority of her wealth to Rebecca, including full ownership of Sterling Enterprises, the family house, and investment portfolios worth $15 million. I received a token inheritance of $50,000 and some personal jewelry that had belonged to Elena's mother. The attorney explained that Elena had modified her will just 2 months before her death, citing her desire to ensure that Sterling Enterprises would be managed by the family member who demonstrated the greatest commitment to preserving her values and legacy. According to the documentation, Elena believed that Rebecca's devotion during her illness and her expressed interest in continuing the family business made her the appropriate choice to inherit primary responsibility for the estate. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. I sat in stunned silence as the attorney continued reading Elena's wishes and explaining the legal framework that would transfer control of Sterling Enterprises to Rebecca immediately. Everything I had assumed about my future, my family relationships, and my grandmother's assessment of my character and capabilities had been fundamentally incorrect. Rebecca's reaction was appropriately solemn during the formal reading, but I caught glimpses of satisfaction that she tried to conceal behind expressions of grief and responsibility. She spoke about honoring Elena's trust and maintaining the business legacy that had been built through decades of hard work and sacrifice. After the meeting concluded, Rebecca approached me in the parking lot outside the attorney's office. Her words would echo in my memory for years afterward, and provide the motivation for everything that followed. "Victoria," she said with false sympathy, "I know this must be disappointing for you, but Grandma Elena made the right choice. You were always too focused on your own career to really understand what family legacy means. Sterling Enterprises needs someone who will put the company first, and we both know that was never going to be you." She paused, perhaps expecting me to respond with anger or emotional breakdown that would confirm her assessment of my character. I hope you can be happy with what Grandma left you. $50,000 is nothing to sneeze at, and those jewelry pieces have real sentimental value. Maybe this will motivate you to finally start thinking about what really matters in life. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw clearly for the first time the calculated manipulation that had led to this moment. The grief, the concern, the family devotion had all been performance designed to position herself as Elena's preferred heir while eliminating me as competition for the inheritance. In that parking lot, standing next to my modest Honda Civic while Rebecca prepared to drive away in her new BMW that would soon be replaced with something even more expensive, I made a decision that would define the next 3 years of my life. I would not accept this outcome as final. I would not allow Rebecca's manipulation to stand as the last word on my relationship with Elena or my place in the Sterling family legacy. Most importantly, I would prove that Rebecca had made the biggest mistake of her life by underestimating the quiet granddaughter who understood numbers, strategy, and the patience required to build something substantial from nothing. The war Rebecca had started with her inheritance theft was just beginning, and she had no idea that the sister she had dismissed as irrelevant was about to become the most formidable opponent she would ever face. 3 years later, standing in that boardroom and watching Rebecca's face as she realized that her new boss was the sister she had betrayed, I understood that revenge served cold is infinitely more satisfying than any heated response could have been. But before I could savor that moment of vindication, I had to build the empire that would make it possible. The journey from devastated granddaughter to acquisition-capable CEO was about to begin, and every step would be motivated by the memory of Rebecca's smug confidence that she had eliminated me as competition forever. She was about to learn that eliminating someone and underestimating them are entirely different mistakes, and only one of them is reversible. The morning after the will reading, I sat in my small apartment overlooking the Chicago River, surrounded by financial documents, legal papers, and a laptop computer that would become my primary weapon in the war Rebecca had unknowingly declared. The $50,000 Elena had left me represented seed capital that most people would consider insufficient for any meaningful business venture, but I understood that successful enterprises had been built with far less when guided by strategic thinking and unwavering determination. My first priority was understanding exactly what Rebecca had inherited and how Sterling Enterprises actually operated. Elena's business had always seemed successful from the outside, but I needed detailed analysis of its financial structure, client relationships, competitive position, and operational vulnerability. This intelligence would be essential for developing a strategy that could eventually position me to acquire the company Rebecca now controlled. I spent the following week using my access to professional financial databases at Morrison & Associates to research Sterling Enterprises comprehensively. The company's annual revenues exceeded $12 million, generated primarily through corporate accounting services, tax preparation for high-net-worth individuals, and financial consulting for small to medium-sized businesses. The client base was stable but aging, with many relationships dating back decades to Elena's personal connections and reputation. The financial analysis revealed both strengths and concerning weaknesses in Sterling Enterprises' position. The company maintained excellent profit margins and strong cash flow, but growth had stagnated over the past 5 years as Elena's advancing age limited her ability to pursue new business development aggressively. The staff consisted primarily of experienced professionals who were approaching retirement themselves, creating potential succession challenges that Rebecca would need to address quickly. More significantly, the industry was evolving rapidly toward technology-driven solutions that Sterling Enterprises had been slow to adopt. Cloud-based accounting software, automated tax preparation systems, and artificial intelligence applications were transforming how financial services were delivered to clients. Elena's traditional approach emphasized personal relationships and hands-on service that commanded premium pricing, but younger business owners increasingly expected digital efficiency and competitive rates. This analysis revealed the foundation of my strategy. Sterling Enterprises was valuable because of Elena's legacy and established client relationships, but it was vulnerable to disruption from competitors who could offer modern technology solutions at competitive prices. If I could build a financial services company that combined cutting-edge technology with exceptional service delivery, I could gradually capture market share from Sterling Enterprises while building the capital necessary for an eventual acquisition. The plan would require 3 to 5 years of disciplined execution across multiple phases. First, I needed to establish my own financial services practice, focused on small business clients who were underserved by traditional firms like Sterling Enterprise. Second, I would leverage technology to deliver superior service at competitive prices while building a reputation for innovation and results. Third, I would systematically expand my client base and service offerings while monitoring Sterling Enterprises for signs of financial stress or operational challenges. Finally, when the opportunity arose, I would acquire Sterling Enterprises and integrate it into my larger business platform. The beauty of this strategy was that Rebecca would not recognize the threat until it was too late to respond effectively. She would see me as a former family member who had started a small business practice that posed no competitive threat to Sterling Enterprises' established market position. By the time she understood that my company was systematically undermining her client base and building acquisition capabilities, the balance of power would have shifted irrevocably. Implementing this plan required immediate action across multiple fronts. I needed to establish my business entity, develop technology infrastructure, create service offerings, and begin building a client base while maintaining my position at Morrison & Associates until my new company generated sufficient revenue to support me full-time. The business formation process took 2 weeks of intensive research and legal consultation. I established Victoria Sterling Financial Services as a limited liability company with myself as sole owner and managing member. The name was deliberately chosen to leverage the Sterling family reputation while differentiating my company from Elena's traditional approach. I registered the necessary licenses for financial services practice and secured professional liability insurance that would protect both my personal assets and client interests. Technology infrastructure represented the largest initial investment and the foundation of my competitive advantage over Sterling Enterprise. I allocated $20,000 of my inheritance toward purchasing state-of-the-art accounting software, client relationship management systems, and cloud-based communication platforms that would enable me to deliver services efficiently regardless of geographic location. The remaining $30,000 was reserved for marketing, office setup, and operating expenses during the initial growth phase. The technology platform I developed offered capabilities that Sterling Enterprises could not match without significant capital investment and operational disruption. Clients could upload financial documents securely through web portals, receive real-time updates on project status, and access their financial information through password-protected dashboards available 24 hours per day. Video conferencing capabilities enabled face-to-face consultations without requiring clients to travel to my office, while automated report generation provided detailed analysis that would have required hours of manual preparation using traditional methods. Service development focused on areas where Sterling Enterprises was particularly vulnerable to competition. Small business accounting and tax preparation represented the largest opportunity because Elena's firm primarily served established companies with complex needs that justified premium pricing. Smaller businesses often could not afford Sterling Enterprises rates but needed sophisticated financial guidance to support their growth and compliance requirements. I designed service packages specifically for businesses with annual revenues between $100,000 and $2 million. These companies were too large for basic bookkeeping services, but too small to justify the comprehensive financial consulting that Sterling Enterprises provided to its premium clients. My technology platform enabled me to deliver sophisticated analysis and strategic recommendations at price points that were accessible to smaller businesses while maintaining healthy profit margins. The client acquisition strategy leveraged both my professional network and systematic outreach to business owners who were dissatisfied with their current financial services provider. I began by offering free financial health assessments to businesses in my target market, using these consultations to demonstrate the value of my technology platform and analytical capability. The assessments revealed specific problems that traditional accounting firms had missed or ignored, creating immediate opportunities to provide valuable solutions. Within 6 months of launching Victoria Sterling Financial Services, I had secured 15 clients who collectively generated over $8,000 in monthly recurring revenue. The growth exceeded my most optimistic projections and validated my hypothesis that significant market opportunity existed for technology-enabled financial services that combined sophisticated analysis with competitive pricing. The success attracted attention from business networking groups and professional associations, where I began speaking about technology trends in financial services and strategies for small business growth. These presentations established my reputation as an innovative practitioner who understood both traditional financial principles and emerging technology applications. More importantly, the speaking engagements provided intelligence about Rebecca's management of Sterling Enterprises and the challenges she was encountering as Elena's success. Industry colleagues shared observations about staff turnover at Sterling Enterprises, client complaints about service quality, and Rebecca's struggles to maintain the company's reputation for excellence that Elena had built over decades. The intelligence revealed that Rebecca was making predictable mistakes that would accelerate Sterling Enterprises' vulnerability to competitive pressure. She had increased prices across all service lines to boost short-term profitability without investing in technology improvements or staff development that would justify premium pricing. Several long-term clients had expressed frustration with declining service quality and Rebecca's lack of understanding about their specific business requirements. Most significantly, Rebecca was treating Sterling Enterprises as a cash flow generator rather than a business that required continuous investment and strategic development. She was extracting maximum profits for personal use while deferring maintenance, technology upgrades, and staff retention initiatives that were essential for long-term competitive position. These management decisions created accelerating opportunities for my company to capture Sterling Enterprises clients who were seeking better service at competitive pricing. I developed targeted marketing campaigns designed to reach businesses that had recently worked with Sterling Enterprises, offering free consultations to review their current financial services arrangements and identify potential improvements. The client acquisition acceleration was remarkable. By the end of my first year in business, Victoria Sterling Financial Services was generating over $25,000 in monthly recurring revenue from a client base that included several former Sterling Enterprises customers who had switched specifically because of service quality concerns. The financial success enabled me to expand my team by hiring 2 experienced financial analysts who shared my commitment to exceptional service delivery and technology innovation. The additional capacity allowed me to pursue larger clients and more complex projects while maintaining the personalized attention that differentiated my company from traditional financial services. During the second year of operations, I began developing additional service lines that would position my company for eventual expansion into Sterling Enterprises' core market segment. I added estate planning services, investment advisory capabilities, and business valuation expertise that enabled me to serve high-net-worth individuals and established companies that required sophisticated financial guidance. Each new service line was developed with technology integration that provided superior client experience while maintaining operational efficiency. Investment advisory services included real-time portfolio monitoring and automated rebalancing that responded to market conditions more quickly than traditional manual approaches. Estate planning incorporated legal document automation that reduced preparation time while ensuring accuracy and compliance with current regulations. The business expansion attracted the attention of private equity investors who were seeking opportunities in the financial services sector. 3 different investment groups approached me about potential partnerships or acquisition discussions, validating my company's growth potential and strategic position within the evolving industry landscape. Rather than accepting immediate investment, I negotiated consulting relationships with 2 private equity firms that provided access to acquisition financing capabilities and strategic guidance about industry consolidation trends. These relationships positioned me to pursue larger acquisition targets when appropriate opportunities arose, while maintaining operational independence and strategic flexibility. The consulting relationships also provided intelligence about Sterling Enterprises' financial performance and market position, that would have been impossible to obtain through other channels. The private equity firms conducted regular market analysis that included detailed assessments of established financial services companies, including Elena's former business under Rebecca's management. The intelligence confirmed that Sterling Enterprises was experiencing accelerating challenges that would eventually create acquisition opportunities. Client retention rates had declined significantly over the past 18 months, while operational costs were increasing faster than revenue growth. Rebecca's management decisions were systematically undermining the competitive advantage that Elena had built through decades of strategic investments and relationship development. Most concerning for Sterling Enterprises' long-term viability was Rebecca's failure to develop succession plans for key staff members who were approaching retirement. Elena had maintained detailed knowledge about each client's specific requirements and preferences that had never been systematically documented or transferred to other team members. As experienced staff departed, this institutional knowledge was disappearing permanently, creating service quality problems that were driving additional client defections. By the end of my second year in business, Victoria Sterling Financial Services had achieved annual revenues of $400,000 with profit margins that exceeded industry standards. The client base included over 60 businesses and high-net-worth individuals who valued the combination of sophisticated analysis and technology-enabled service delivery that my company provided. The financial success enabled me to establish a cash reserve of over $200,000 that could be leveraged for strategic acquisitions or business expansion opportunities. Combined with access to private equity financing, I now possessed the capital resources necessary to pursue acquisition targets significantly larger than my current company size. The strategic position was exactly what I had envisioned when developing my initial plan. Victoria Sterling Financial Services had established market credibility, built a loyal client base, and developed operational capabilities that could support significant expansion through organic growth or strategic acquisition. Rebecca's mismanagement of Sterling Enterprises was creating the exact opportunity I had anticipated, while my company's success provided the platform necessary to capitalize on her mistake. During the third year of operations, I began implementing the final phase of my strategy by systematically targeting Sterling Enterprises' most valuable clients with service offerings that demonstrated clear superiority to what they were receiving under Rebecca's management. The approach was subtle but relentless, focusing on business owners who had expressed frustration with declining service quality while emphasizing the benefits of working with a firm that prioritized innovation and client satisfaction. The client acquisition campaign was remarkably successful because it addressed genuine problems that Sterling Enterprises was unable or unwilling to resolve. Business owners appreciated working with a financial services provider who understood technology, responded quickly to requests, and provided analysis that helped them make better strategic decisions. Within 6 months, I had captured 12 former Sterling Enterprises clients whose annual fees totaled over $150,000. More importantly, the client defections were creating financial pressure that would eventually force Rebecca to consider strategic alternatives for Sterling Enterprise. The company's revenue was declining while operating costs remained fixed, creating margin compression that threatened long-term viability. Rebecca's personal lifestyle had become dependent on distributions from Sterling Enterprises that were becoming increasingly difficult to sustain as business performance deteriorated. The intelligence from private equity contacts suggested that Rebecca was beginning to explore potential buyers for Sterling Enterprises, though she had not yet committed to a formal sale process. The preliminary discussions indicated that she was seeking a purchase price that reflected Elena's historical success rather than the company's current trajectory under her management. This development represented the opportunity I had been positioning to capture. Rebecca's unrealistic pricing expectations would eliminate most strategic buyers who understood Sterling Enterprises' operational challenges and declining competitive position. However, her desperate need for cash flow and validation would make her susceptible to an acquisition offer that appeared to meet her financial requirements while providing the recognition she craved. The acquisition strategy I developed would enable me to purchase Sterling Enterprises at a significant discount to its apparent value, while positioning the transaction as a premium deal that reflected Rebecca's successful management of Elena's legacy. The approach required sophisticated financial engineering and strategic communication, but it would achieve my ultimate objective of acquiring the company Rebecca had stolen while ensuring that she understood exactly who her new employer would be. As I prepared to initiate acquisition discussions, I reflected on the journey from devastated granddaughter to acquisition-capable CEO that had been completed in exactly 3 years. The transformation validated my belief that strategic thinking and disciplined execution could overcome any initial disadvantage when guided by clear vision and unwavering determination. Rebecca's theft of my inheritance had provided the motivation necessary to build something significantly more valuable than what she had stolen. Sterling Enterprises under Elena's management had been worth $15 million, but the combined enterprise I was preparing to create would be worth substantially more while providing the platform for continued expansion across multiple market segments. The ultimate irony was that Rebecca's betrayal had forced me to develop capabilities and achieve success that would never have been possible if Elena's will had divided the inheritance equally. By stealing my financial inheritance, Rebecca had unknowingly provided the catalyst for my transformation into someone who could build business empires rather than simply managing existing assets. The final phase of my strategy was about to begin, and Rebecca had no understanding that the quiet sister she had dismissed as irrelevant had become the most formidable business opponent she would ever encounter. The acquisition of Sterling Enterprises would represent not just financial victory but definitive proof that character and capability ultimately determine outcomes regardless of temporary advantages gained through manipulation or betrayal. The third year of victorious Sterling Financial Services marked the transition from defensive positioning to offensive strategy implementation. My company had achieved sufficient scale and financial resources to pursue strategic acquisitions, while Sterling Enterprises continued deteriorating under Rebecca's management in ways that created precisely the opportunity I had anticipated. The convergence of these factors enabled me to initiate the acquisition process that would ultimately place my sister in the subordinate position she had forced upon me 3 years earlier. Intelligence gathering had become systematic and comprehensive, utilizing industry contacts, client feedback, and public information sources to monitor Sterling Enterprises' financial performance and operational challenges. The data revealed accelerating problems that threatened the company's long-term viability while creating acquisition opportunities for strategic buyers who understood the underlying value of Elena's client relationships and market position. Sterling Enterprises' annual revenue had declined from $12 million to approximately $8.7 million over the 18 months following Elena's death. The reduction reflected both client defections and Rebecca's decision to discontinue certain service lines that required specialized expertise she did not possess. While the revenue decline was concerning, the more significant problem was margin compression caused by operational inefficiencies and Rebecca's failure to adapt to changing market conditions. The client retention analysis revealed systematic problems that extended beyond normal competitive pressure. Long-term clients who had maintained relationships with Sterling Enterprises for decades were terminating their agreements at unprecedented rates. Exit interviews conducted by former employees who had joined other firms indicated widespread dissatisfaction with service quality, responsiveness, and Rebecca's apparent lack of understanding about complex business requirements. Staff turnover had reached crisis levels, with 7 experienced professionals departing Sterling Enterprises within the past year. These departures included Elena's former deputy director, the senior tax specialist who had managed high-net-worth individual accounts, and the business development manager responsible for new client acquisition. The institutional knowledge represented by these departures was irreplaceable and created service delivery problems that compounded client satisfaction issues. Rebecca's response to these challenges demonstrated the management deficiencies that made Sterling Enterprises vulnerable to acquisition at attractive pricing. Rather than addressing operational problems systematically, she had implemented cost reduction measures that further undermined service quality while failing to invest in technology upgrades or staff development that could restore competitive positioning. The cost reduction initiatives included elimination of continuing education programs for remaining staff, cancellation of professional development activities that maintained industry certification, and reduction of client entertainment expenses that had historically strengthened relationship management. These decisions generated short-term savings while accelerating the long-term decline that was making Sterling Enterprises increasingly difficult to operate profitably. Most significantly for my acquisition strategy, Rebecca had begun exploring potential buyers for Sterling Enterprises without engaging professional investment banking services that would have provided realistic market valuation analysis. Her preliminary discussions with potential acquirers reflected unrealistic expectations about the company's value and her contribution to its success since inheriting control from Elaine. The private equity contacts who provided industry intelligence reported that Rebecca was seeking a purchase price of approximately $25 million for Sterling Enterprise, representing a multiple of current revenue that ignored the operational challenges and declining trajectory that characterized the business under her management. This pricing expectation eliminated serious strategic buyers while creating opportunity for creative acquisition structures that could meet her financial requirements through methods other than immediate cash payment. My acquisition strategy leveraged Rebecca's financial desperation and psychological need for validation to structure a transaction that would achieve my objectives while appearing to satisfy her requirements. The approach required sophisticated financial engineering and strategic communication that would make the acquisition attractive to Rebecca while ensuring that I retained ultimate control over both the transaction structure and ongoing business operation. The initial phase involved establishing an acquisition vehicle that would obscure my personal involvement while providing the financial capabilities necessary to complete the transaction. I created Sterling Capital Ventures as a private equity partnership with myself as managing partner and my previous private equity contacts as limited partners providing acquisition finance. Sterling Capital Ventures was structured as a legitimate investment entity that specialized in acquiring underperforming professional services businesses and implementing operational improvements that restored growth and profitability. The partnership had committed capital of $8 million and access to additional financing that would support acquisitions up to $15 million in total enterprise value. The acquisition approach was designed to address Rebecca's psychological motivations as well as her financial requirements. Rather than presenting a traditional purchase offer that would highlight Sterling Enterprises' operational challenge, I structured the proposal as a strategic partnership that would provide Rebecca with immediate liquidity while recognizing her valuable contribution to the company's development under challenging market conditions. The initial contact was made through intermediaries who approached Rebecca about potential strategic alternatives for Sterling Enterprises without revealing Sterling Capital Ventures' connection to my personal identity. The intermediaries were experienced investment professionals who understood how to present acquisition proposals in ways that appealed to target company management while protecting buyer interest. Rebecca's response to the initial inquiry exceeded my expectations and confirmed that her financial situation was more desperate than public information had revealed. She expressed immediate interest in discussing strategic alternatives and requested an urgent meeting to review preliminary terms for potential partnership arrangements. The initial meeting took place in the conference room of a downtown Chicago law firm that specialized in merger and acquisition transactions. Rebecca arrived accompanied by her personal attorney, while I attended as a representative of Sterling Capital Ventures wearing a conservative business suit and professional demeanor that concealed my personal identity behind the role of institutional investor. Rebecca's appearance reflected the stress and financial pressure that had motivated her interest in strategic alternatives. Her usual polished presentation seemed forced, and she displayed nervous energy that suggested significant anxiety about her company's future prospects. The confident social persona that had always characterized her interactions was replaced by obvious desperation to present Sterling Enterprises as an attractive acquisition target. The meeting began with Rebecca's presentation about Sterling Enterprises' market position, client relationships, and growth opportunities under continued professional management. Her analysis emphasized Elena's legacy and the company's historical success while minimizing recent operational challenges and client retention problems. The presentation revealed Rebecca's fundamental misunderstanding of both her company's current situation and the sophistication of potential acquirers who would conduct thorough due diligence. My response was carefully calibrated to demonstrate professional competence while encouraging Rebecca's unrealistic expectations about transaction pricing and structure. I acknowledged Sterling Enterprises' strong market reputation and valuable client relationships while suggesting that strategic partnership with experienced investors could accelerate growth and expand service capability. The preliminary terms I presented were designed to appeal to Rebecca's financial requirements and psychological needs, while ensuring that Sterling Capital Ventures retained operational control and strategic decision-making authority. The structure included immediate cash payment of $3 million, additional performance-based payments totaling up to $7 million over 3 years, and retention of Rebecca as Chief Executive Officer with guaranteed compensation and benefit package. Rebecca's reaction to the preliminary terms was enthusiasm tempered by concern about maintaining control over the company she had inherited from Elena. She expressed interest in the financial components while requesting modifications to governance provisions that would preserve her authority over daily operations and strategic planning. The negotiations continued over 6 weeks with multiple meetings, revised proposals, and due diligence activities that provided comprehensive analysis of Sterling Enterprises' financial condition and operational challenges. The due diligence process confirmed my previous assessment that the company was worth significantly less than Rebecca believed, while validating my strategy for operational improvements that would restore profitability after acquisition. The due diligence findings revealed additional problems that strengthened my negotiating position while making Rebecca increasingly desperate to complete the transaction. Sterling Enterprises had accumulated over $400,000 in deferred maintenance expenses, technology systems that required immediate upgrades costing approximately $600,000, and potential litigation exposure from 3 former clients who alleged professional negligence in service delivery. These discoveries enabled me to restructure the acquisition terms in ways that reduced immediate cash requirements while providing additional protection for Sterling Capital Ventures against operational risks and financial liability. The revised proposal included immediate cash payment of $2.5 million, performance-based payments that were tied to specific financial and operational benchmarks, and comprehensive indemnification provisions that protected the acquiring entity against legacy issues. Rebecca's financial situation had deteriorated sufficiently that she accepted the revised terms despite their less favorable structure compared to initial proposal. Her personal expenses had remained elevated while Sterling Enterprises distributions declined, creating cash flow problems that made immediate liquidity more important than optimal transaction price. The final negotiation sessions focused on employment arrangements and organizational structure that would govern Sterling Enterprises' operations after the acquisition closed. Rebecca insisted on maintaining the Chief Executive Officer title and comprehensive authority over staff management and client relationships. These requirements were acceptable because they would facilitate the dramatic revelation I planned for the first board meeting after transaction completion. The employment agreement specified that Rebecca would report to Sterling Capital Ventures' managing partner and board of directors, but would retain day-to-day operational authority subject to achievement of financial and operational performance targets established through collaborative planning process. The structure provided sufficient oversight authority to implement necessary changes while maintaining Rebecca's illusion that she would continue controlling the business she had inherited from Elaine. Legal documentation required 3 weeks to complete and included comprehensive purchase agreements, employment contracts, financing arrangements, and operational protocols that would govern the combined entity after transaction closing. The complexity was justified by the transaction size and the need to address various contingencies that could affect performance during the integration period. The closing took place on a Friday morning in November, exactly 3 years after Elena's death and the will reading that had initiated my transformation from inheritance victim to acquisition-capable investor. Rebecca signed dozens of documents transferring ownership of Sterling Enterprises to Sterling Capital Ventures while accepting employment as Chief Executive Officer under terms that would ensure her cooperation during the transition period. The immediate aftermath of closing provided Rebecca with the financial relief she desperately needed while creating the foundation for operational improvements that would restore Sterling Enterprises' competitive position and financial performance. The cash payment eliminated her personal financial pressures, while performance-based payments provided incentives for supporting the changes necessary to achieve sustainable growth. Rebecca's satisfaction with the transaction was evident during the closing dinner celebration attended by attorneys, accountants, and other professionals who had facilitated the acquisition process. She spoke confidently about her plans for leading Sterling Enterprises under new ownership while expressing gratitude for the partnership opportunity that had preserved Elena's legacy under professional management. The celebration represented the culmination of Rebecca's confidence that she had successfully monetized her inheritance while retaining operational control over the business that had provided her with financial security and professional identity. She believed that the transaction had validated her management capabilities while providing the capital resources necessary to address competitive challenges and pursue growth opportunities. What Rebecca did not understand was that the employment agreement she had signed included specific performance requirements and governance provisions that would enable Sterling Capital Ventures to remove her from executive leadership if she failed to achieve predetermined financial and operational benchmarks. The benchmarks were carefully calibrated to be achievable through competent management but impossible to meet given Rebecca's demonstrated deficiencies in strategic thinking and operational execution. More importantly, Rebecca remained unaware that Sterling Capital Ventures' managing partner was her sister Victoria, whose identity had been concealed throughout the acquisition process through the use of legal representatives and professional intermediaries. The revelation of my role as her new supervisor would occur during the first board meeting scheduled for the following Monday morning. The weekend between transaction closing and the inaugural board meeting provided time for final preparations that would ensure maximum impact when Rebecca discovered that the sister she had betrayed was now positioned to determine her professional future. The board meeting agenda included comprehensive review of Sterling Enterprises' operational challenges, presentation of improvement plans that would restore competitive positioning, and introduction of new management protocols that would govern executive performance. The meeting location was the Sterling Enterprises conference room where Elena had conducted board meetings during her tenure as company founder and chief executive officer. The symbolism was intentional, representing the restoration of competent leadership to the business that Rebecca had mismanaged while pursuing personal financial gain at the expense of operational excellence. As I prepared for Monday morning's board meeting, I reflected on the strategic patience and systematic execution that had enabled transformation from inheritance victim to acquisition victor in exactly 3 years. The journey had required sacrificing immediate emotional satisfaction in favor of long-term strategic positioning, but the result exceeded anything that immediate retaliation could have achieved. Rebecca had stolen $15 million in inheritance assets, but her mismanagement had enabled me to acquire her entire company for less than $10 million while positioning myself to implement operational improvements that would generate substantially greater long-term value. The financial outcome was favorable, but the psychological satisfaction of revealing my identity while she sat in the subordinate position would be immeasurable. The acquisition represented more than personal vindication or business success. It demonstrated that strategic thinking and disciplined execution could overcome any initial disadvantage when guided by clear vision and sustained commitment to excellence. Rebecca's betrayal had provided the motivation necessary to develop capabilities that would serve me throughout my career, while her incompetence had created the exact opportunity required to achieve ultimate justice. Monday morning arrived with crisp November air that matched the clarity of purpose I felt as I prepared for the board meeting that would irrevocably alter the balance of power between Rebecca and myself. 3 years of strategic planning, disciplined execution, and patient positioning had culminated in this moment when the sister who had stolen my inheritance would discover that her actions had inadvertently created the catalyst for her own professional subordination. The Sterling Enterprises office building appeared unchanged from the outside, but everything about its internal dynamics was about to transform. Rebecca arrived at her usual time, expecting to begin another week as chief executive officer of the company she believed she had successfully sold while retaining operational control. Her routine coffee preparation and review of morning emails represented the final moments of her illusion that the transaction had preserved her authority while providing financial security.
I entered the building at precisely 9:30, 30 minutes before the scheduled board meeting that would serve as Rebecca's introduction to the new governance structure. The security guard recognized me as one of the Sterling Capital Ventures representatives who had been involved in recent due diligence activities, though he remained unaware of my personal connection to the Sterling family or the dramatic revelation that was about to unfold. The conference room had been prepared according to my specific instructions, with seating arrangements that would position Rebecca directly across from the head of the table where I would reveal my identity as managing partner of Sterling Capital Venture. Legal counsel and financial advisors were positioned to observe Rebecca's reaction while providing professional credibility to the proceeding. Rebecca entered the conference room at exactly 10 o'clock, displaying the confident demeanor that had characterized her approach to business relationships throughout her career. She greeted the assembled professionals with appropriate formality while expressing enthusiasm about collaborating with new ownership to address Sterling Enterprises' operational challenges and pursue growth opportunities. Her appearance reflected careful preparation for what she anticipated would be an important but routine business meeting with institutional investors who had acquired her company. The tailored business suit and professional presentation suggested confidence in her ability to manage relationships with sophisticated financial partners while maintaining executive authority over daily operations. The meeting began with routine administrative matters including review of transaction documents, confirmation of closing procedures, and establishment of communication protocols that would govern interactions between Sterling Enterprises management and Sterling Capital Ventures oversight. These preliminary discussions provided final opportunities to observe Rebecca's management style and communication approach before implementing the dramatic change that would redefine her professional circumstance. Rebecca's participation in these discussions revealed the superficial understanding of business operations that had contributed to Sterling Enterprises' decline under her leadership. Her responses to questions about financial performance, operational challenges, and strategic planning demonstrated tactical thinking rather than comprehensive strategic analysis. She focused on immediate issues while failing to recognize systemic problems that required fundamental changes to business processes and management approach. The disconnect between Rebecca's confidence and her actual competence provided additional validation for the acquisition strategy that would enable systematic improvement of Sterling Enterprises' operations under experienced management. Her misconceptions about business leadership and strategic planning explained why client retention had declined and why operational efficiency had deteriorated during her tenure as chief executive officer. 30 minutes into the meeting, I initiated the transition that would reveal my identity and establish the new governance relationship. The moment required careful choreography to ensure maximum impact while maintaining professional decorum appropriate for a business setting that included legal counsel and financial advisor. I addressed Rebecca directly using a tone that combined professional authority with personal recognition that would gradually penetrate her awareness of our family relationship. The approach was designed to create mounting realization rather than immediate shock that might provoke emotional outburst or defensive behavior inappropriate for the business context. "Rebecca," I began, maintaining steady eye contact while allowing my voice to carry familiar inflections that would trigger recognition before we proceed with operational discussions. "I need to introduce myself properly as managing partner of Sterling Capital Ventures and your new supervisor."
The initial response was professional acknowledgement without personal recognition, suggesting that my appearance and business context had successfully concealed my identity throughout the acquisition process. Rebecca nodded politely while maintaining the expectation that she was meeting another institutional investor representative who would respect her executive authority. "I am Victoria Sterling," I continued, speaking clearly and deliberately to ensure that each word registered fully, "and I believe we have some family business to discuss in addition to our professional relationship going forward." The transformation of Rebecca's expression was immediate and comprehensive. Professional composure dissolved into confusion, then recognition, then disbelief, as she processed the implications of discovering that her sister had engineered the acquisition of Sterling Enterprises. The confident demeanor that had characterized her entrance disappeared entirely, replaced by visible shock and growing comprehension of how completely the balance of power had shifted. Rebecca's first response was denial, as if rejecting the reality could somehow restore her previous understanding of the situation. She looked around the conference room at the assembled professionals, seeking confirmation that some mistake had occurred or that the revelation was not genuine. "That's impossible," she said, her voice lacking the confidence that had characterized her previous statements. "Victoria is a financial analyst. She works for some small firm. She doesn't have the resources to acquire company." The denial provided an opportunity to demonstrate the extent of transformation that had occurred since the inheritance theft that Rebecca believed had eliminated me as meaningful competition. Her assumptions about my capabilities and resources reflected the same underestimation that had enabled my systematic development of acquisition capabilities, while she remained focused on extracting maximum personal benefit from Elena's legacy. 3 years ago, that assessment would have been accurate, I replied, maintaining professional tone while allowing satisfaction to color my voice. However, circumstances change when someone is sufficiently motivated to develop new capabilities and pursue ambitious objectives. Your decision to steal my inheritance provided exactly the motivation necessary to transform from employee to business owner to acquisition investor. The explanation began Rebecca's comprehension that my presence as Sterling Capital Ventures managing partner was not coincidental or opportunistic, but represented the culmination of systematic strategy that had specifically targeted her company for acquisition. The realization that her actions had created the catalyst for my business development and eventual positioning to purchase Sterling Enterprises represented a level of strategic consequence she had never anticipated. Rebecca's mounting understanding of the situation manifested in increasingly desperate attempts to reassert control over circumstances that had moved far beyond her influence. She addressed the legal counsel present, seeking confirmation that some procedural error had occurred that would invalidate the transaction or restore her previous authority. "There must be some mistake in the documentation," she insisted, reviewing the employment agreement she had signed during the closing process. "I am Chief Executive Officer of Sterling Enterprises. I report to Sterling Capital Ventures, not to Victoria specific." The legal counsel confirmed that all documentation was accurate and binding, and that Sterling Capital Ventures was legitimately owned and operated by Victoria Sterling as managing partner. The employment agreement Rebecca had signed established her subordinate relationship to Sterling Capital Ventures management, regardless of her personal feelings about the family dynamics involved. The professional confirmation of her subordinate status represented the moment when Rebecca fully comprehended that her theft of my inheritance had not eliminated me as competition, but had instead created the circumstances that enabled me to acquire her entire company and position myself as her supervisor. The irony was profound and complete. Rebecca's response shifted from denial to anger as she processed the implications of her new professional circumstance. The emotional reaction was understandable but inappropriate for the business context, and it provided additional evidence of the temperament issues that had contributed to Sterling Enterprises' operational challenges under her leadership. "This is ridiculous," she declared, her voice rising beyond professional volume levels. "You cannot seriously expect me to work for you after everything that has happened between us. I will not accept this arrangement." The outburst provided an ideal opportunity to demonstrate the difference between emotional reaction and strategic response, while establishing clear expectations for professional behavior under the new governance structure. Rebecca's inability to separate personal feelings from business requirements validated concerns about her judgment and leadership capability. "Your personal feelings about our family relationship are irrelevant to your professional obligations under the employment agreement you signed," I responded, maintaining calm authority while addressing her emotional reaction. "Sterling Enterprises requires competent leadership to address operational challenges and restore financial performance. Your ability to provide that leadership will determine whether your employment continues." The statement established clear parameters for Rebecca's continued involvement with the company while emphasizing that professional competence, rather than family relationship, would determine her future prospects. The approach was designed to focus attention on business requirements, while making clear that emotional resistance would not influence strategic decision-making. Rebecca's understanding that her professional survival depended on demonstrating competence rather than asserting inherited authority represented a fundamental shift in family dynamics that extended beyond business consideration. For the first time in our relationship, Her success would depend on earning recognition through performance rather than manipulating circumstances to maintain advantageous positioning. The remainder of the board meeting focused on operational issues that required immediate attention to stabilize Sterling Enterprises' financial performance and restore competitive positioning. The discussion provided concrete examples of the challenges that Rebecca had failed to address effectively while demonstrating the systematic approach that would be implemented under new management oversight. Client retention analysis revealed that Sterling Enterprises had lost 23 significant accounts over the past 18 months, representing approximately $1.8 million in annual recurring revenue. The client defections reflected service quality problems, pricing issues, and relationship management failures that could be addressed through systematic operational improvements and strategic reposition. Staff turnover problems had created knowledge gaps that affected service delivery across multiple client relationships. The departure of experienced professionals had eliminated institutional memory about client preferences, regulatory requirements, and industry-specific considerations that were essential for maintaining service excellence. Addressing these knowledge gaps would require comprehensive documentation, training programs, and retention initiatives that had been neglected under Rebecca's management. Technology infrastructure limitations prevented Sterling Enterprises from delivering services efficiently while meeting client expectations for digital communication and real-time information access. The outdated systems that Elena had used successfully for decades were no longer adequate for competing with firms that offered modern technology platforms and automated service delivery capability. Each operational challenge represented opportunities for improvement that would restore Sterling Enterprises' competitive position while generating increased profitability and client satisfaction. The systematic approach required significant investment and management attention, but the potential returns justified the resources necessary to implement comprehensive operational transformation. Rebecca's participation in operational discussions revealed her limited understanding of the strategic thinking required to address systemic business challenges. Her suggestions focused on tactical adjustments rather than fundamental changes to service delivery models, pricing strategies, or client relationship management approaches. The superficial analysis demonstrated why Sterling Enterprises had continued declining despite obvious warning signs that should have prompted comprehensive strategic review. The contrast between Rebecca's reactive management style and the strategic planning approach that would be implemented under new oversight provided clear indication of why the acquisition had been necessary to preserve Sterling Enterprises as a viable business entity. Her approach to leadership emphasized personal authority rather than systematic problem-solving, creating organizational dysfunction that undermined operational effectiveness. By the conclusion of the board meeting, Rebecca had begun accepting the reality that her professional future depended on adapting to new governance requirements rather than attempting to maintain previous authority structure. The adjustment represented necessary personal growth that would benefit both Sterling Enterprises and Rebecca's own professional development if she proved capable of learning from the experience. The employment relationship going forward would provide Rebecca with opportunities to demonstrate competence while requiring accountability for performance results that had been absent during her tenure as independent chief executive officer. The structure would either facilitate her development into a more effective business leader or provide clear documentation of performance deficiencies that would justify personnel change. Most significantly for my own satisfaction, the revelation had demonstrated that strategic patience and systematic preparation could achieve outcomes that immediate emotional responses could never accomplish. Rebecca's theft of my inheritance had motivated transformation from financial analyst to business owner to acquisition investor capable of purchasing her entire company and reversing the power dynamic she had created through manipulation. The boardroom confrontation represented validation that character and competence ultimately determine professional outcomes, regardless of temporary advantages gained through deception or inherited privilege. Rebecca's confidence that she had eliminated me as meaningful competition had prevented her from recognizing the threat until circumstances had shifted irrevocably in my favor. As the meeting concluded and Rebecca remained in her chair processing the implications of her new subordinate status, I experienced the profound satisfaction that comes from achieving justice through legitimate means rather than emotional retaliation. The acquisition of Sterling Enterprises represented not only personal vindication but professional achievement that would provide the foundation for continued business growth and strategic expansion. The transformation from inheritance victim to company owner had required sacrificing immediate gratification in favor of long-term strategic positioning. But the result exceeded anything that emotional response could have accomplished. Rebecca's betrayal had inadvertently provided the catalyst for developing capabilities and achieving success that would benefit me throughout my career, while ensuring that she understood the consequences of underestimating family members based on superficial characteristics. The final irony was that Rebecca's manipulation of Elena's will to steal my inheritance had ultimately resulted in her losing control of the entire Sterling Enterprises legacy, while positioning me to restore the company to operational excellence that would honor Elena's memory and business philosophy. Justice had been achieved through competence rather than revenge, creating sustainable success rather than temporary satisfaction. The week following the boardroom revelation established the operational framework that would govern Sterling Enterprises under new ownership, while providing Rebecca with her first experience of professional accountability in an environment where family relationship offered no protection from performance requirements. The transition period revealed both the depth of operational challenges that required immediate attention and Rebecca's capacity for adaptation when faced with circumstances beyond her control. Monday afternoon's extended management meeting focused on immediate stabilization measures necessary to prevent further client defections, while establishing systematic approaches to address the service quality problems that had accelerated under Rebecca's independent leadership. The analysis revealed that Sterling Enterprises required comprehensive operational restructuring across multiple departments to restore competitive positioning and financial performance. Rebecca's initial response to detailed performance review was defensive resistance that reflected her unfamiliarity with rigorous accountability standards. Her previous experience as chief executive officer had involved making decisions without systematic analysis or oversight, creating management habits that were incompatible with the disciplined approach required to address current challenges effectively. The client retention crisis demanded immediate intervention to prevent additional revenue losses that would threaten Sterling Enterprises' viability as a going concern. 23 significant accounts had terminated their relationships over the past 18 months, while an additional 15 clients had expressed concerns about service quality that suggested they were considering alternative providers. The retention analysis indicated that proactive relationship management and service improvement could prevent most potential defections while creating opportunities to rebuild damaged client confidence. Rebecca's involvement in client relationship analysis revealed fundamental gaps in her understanding of customer service principles and relationship management strategy. Her approach to client interaction emphasized social charm rather than technical competence, creating situations where clients received inadequate service despite personally liking Rebecca as an individual. The disconnect between relationship quality and service delivery had created client frustration that could no longer be addressed through personal interaction alone. The systematic review of client complaints provided specific examples of the operational deficiencies that required correction to restore Sterling Enterprises' reputation for professional excellence. Documentation errors had resulted in regulatory compliance problems for 3 business clients, while delayed service delivery had caused missed tax filing deadlines that exposed other clients to penalties and interest charges. The service failures reflected inadequate quality control procedures and insufficient staff training rather than isolated mistakes that could be attributed to temporary circumstances. Technology infrastructure limitations had created additional service delivery problems that affected client satisfaction across multiple service lines. The accounting software that Elena had used successfully for decades lacked integration capabilities with modern banking systems and regulatory reporting platforms, requiring manual data entry and verification processes that increased error rates while reducing operational efficiency. Client communication was limited to telephone and email systems that prevented real-time information sharing and collaboration that clients increasingly expected from professional service providers. Staff Staff morale problems had compounded service delivery challenges by creating an organizational culture where employee engagement and professional development were neglected in favor of cost reduction and short-term financial optimization. The departure of experienced professionals had eliminated institutional knowledge while creating workload increases for remaining staff that affected both job satisfaction and service quality. Exit interviews revealed systematic concerns about leadership, direction, and professional development opportunities that had contributed to accelerating turnover rates. Addressing these operational challenges required comprehensive strategic planning that integrated technology upgrades, staff retention initiatives, client relationship management improvements, and financial restructuring to support necessary investments while maintaining profitability during the transition period. The scope of required changes demonstrated why Sterling Enterprises had become vulnerable to acquisition despite its valuable client relationships and market reputation. Rebecca's participation in strategic planning sessions revealed her limitations in systematic thinking and long-term analysis that had contributed to Sterling Enterprises' operational decline. Her suggestions focused on incremental adjustments rather than fundamental changes to business processes and service delivery model. The tactical approach reflected management thinking that emphasized problem avoidance rather than comprehensive solutions designed to create sustainable competitive advantage. The first week's operational review concluded with development of a 90-day improvement plan that established specific performance targets for client retention, service quality enhancement, technology implementation, and staff development initiatives. The plan provided measurable objectives that would enable objective assessment of progress while creating accountability standards for all management personnel, including Rebecca's continued employment as Chief Executive Officer. Rebecca's reaction to performance-based employment requirements reflected her adjustment to professional circumstances where success depended on achieving concrete results rather than maintaining relationships or asserting inherited authority. The transition from independent decision-making to systematic accountability represented a fundamental change in her professional experience that required developing new skills and management approach. Tuesday's management meeting focused on financial analysis that revealed the extent of Sterling Enterprises' deterioration under Rebecca's leadership while establishing benchmarks for measuring improvement during the restructuring process. The financial review provided concrete evidence of the business decisions that had undermined operational effectiveness and competitive positioning over the past 3 years. Revenue analysis confirmed that Sterling Enterprises had experienced accelerating decline that extended beyond normal competitive pressure or market conditions. Annual recurring revenue had decreased from $12 million to $8.7 million, representing a 27% reduction that significantly exceeded industry averages during the same period. The revenue decline reflected both client defections and Rebecca's decision to discontinue profitable service lines that required specialized expertise she did not possess. Profit margin analysis revealed additional concerning trends that threatened Sterling Enterprises' long-term financial viability. Operating expenses had increased by 15% while revenue declined, creating margin compression that made the business increasingly difficult to operate profitably. The expense increases reflected Rebecca's failure to implement cost management strategies that maintained service quality while optimizing operational efficiency. Client acquisition costs had increased dramatically while new client retention rates declined, indicating that Sterling Enterprises was spending more resources to attract clients who were less likely to maintain long-term relationships with the firm. The marketing inefficiency reflected unclear value propositions and service delivery problems that prevented effective client development and relationship building. Cash flow analysis indicated that Sterling Enterprises would require immediate working capital improvements to maintain operations while implementing necessary technology upgrades and staff development initiatives. The cash flow constraints had forced Rebecca to defer essential investments in business infrastructure while extracting maximum distributions for personal use, creating operational problems that accelerated competitive disadvantage. The financial analysis provided specific targets for improvement that would restore Sterling Enterprises to sustainable profitability while supporting strategic investments necessary for long-term competitive positioning.
Revenue growth targets of 15% annually for 3 years would restore the business to previous performance levels, while operational efficiency improvements would increase profit margins to industry-leading standards. Rebecca's response to financial performance requirements demonstrated her limited experience with comprehensive business analysis and strategic financial management. Her previous approach to financial oversight had emphasized expense reduction rather than revenue optimization and strategic investment planning. The analytical approach required developing new capabilities that would enable more sophisticated decision-making about resource allocation and performance measurement. Wednesday's operational planning session focused on technology infrastructure improvements that would enable Sterling Enterprises to deliver services efficiently while meeting client expectations for digital communication and real-time information access. The technology assessment revealed that comprehensive system upgrades were necessary to restore competitive positioning and support anticipated business growth during the restructuring period. The existing accounting software platform lacked integration capabilities with modern banking systems, regulatory reporting platforms, and client communication tools that were essential for efficient service delivery. Manual data entry and verification processes increased labor costs while creating error rates that affected service quality and client satisfaction. The technology limitations prevented Sterling Enterprises from offering automated reporting and real-time information access that clients increasingly expected from professional service providers. Communication infrastructure required comprehensive upgrades to support video conferencing capabilities, secure document sharing platforms, and mobile access that would enable staff productivity while providing client convenience. The outdated systems that Elena had used successfully for decades were no longer adequate for competing with firms that offered modern technology platforms and digital service delivery capability. Client relationship management systems needed complete replacement with integrated platforms that would enable systematic tracking of client interactions, service delivery status, and satisfaction measurement. The lack of systematic client data management had contributed to service delivery problems and relationship management deficiencies that affected client retention and development opportunity. The technology upgrade project required capital investment of approximately $600,000 over 18 months, with implementation scheduling that would minimize service disruption while maximizing operational improvement benefits. The investment represented necessary infrastructure development that would support revenue growth and operational efficiency improvements that justified the upfront costs through increased profitability and competitive positioning. Rebecca's involvement in technology planning revealed her unfamiliarity with modern business systems and digital service delivery capabilities that were becoming standard requirements for professional service firms. Her resistance to technology investment reflected short-term thinking that had prevented necessary infrastructure development while competitors enhanced their service delivery capabilities and operational efficiency. Thursday's staff development planning addressed the human resource challenges that had contributed to Sterling Enterprises' operational decline while establishing retention and recruitment strategies that would rebuild institutional knowledge and service delivery capability. The staff analysis revealed that comprehensive personnel development was necessary to restore service quality and support anticipated business growth. The departure of 7 experienced professionals over 18 months had eliminated critical expertise in tax preparation, business consulting, and regulatory compliance that were essential for serving Sterling Enterprises' client base effectively. The knowledge loss had created service delivery gaps that affected client satisfaction while increasing workload pressures on remaining staff that contributed to additional turnover rate. Staff retention analysis indicated that compensation levels had fallen below market standards while professional development opportunities had been eliminated as cost reduction measures. The combination of inadequate compensation and limited career advancement prospects had created systematic recruitment and retention challenges that affected service quality and operational stability. Training program development required comprehensive curriculum design that would restore essential technical capabilities while establishing service delivery standards that ensured consistent quality across all client relationships. The training investment represented necessary human capital development that would enable Sterling Enterprises to maintain competitive service delivery while supporting staff retention and career development. Recruitment planning focused on identifying experienced professionals who could provide immediate service delivery capabilities while contributing to institutional knowledge development and staff mentoring. The recruitment strategy emphasized cultural fit and service quality commitment rather than just technical expertise, recognizing that client relationship management required professional attitudes and communication skills that complemented technical competence. Rebecca's participation in staff development planning revealed her limited understanding of human resource management principles and employee engagement strategies that were essential for building high-performance professional service organizations. Her previous approach to staff management had emphasized cost control rather than capability development, creating organizational culture problems that affected both employee satisfaction and client service quality. Friday's integration planning session established the operational framework that would govern Sterling Enterprises under Sterling Capital Ventures ownership while providing Rebecca with clear performance expectations and accountability standards. The governance structure was designed to ensure systematic improvement while maintaining operational continuity during the transition period. Reporting requirements included monthly financial analysis, quarterly operational reviews, and annual strategic planning sessions that would enable continuous monitoring of progress while providing opportunities for course correction when necessary. The systematic approach emphasized data-driven decision-making and performance measurement rather than subjective assessment or relationship-based evaluation. Performance targets established specific benchmarks for client retention, revenue growth, operational efficiency, and staff development that would determine Rebecca's continued employment and compensation adjustment. The objective standards provided clear expectations while eliminating subjective criteria that could create conflict or misunderstanding about employment requirements. Decision-making authority was clearly delineated to ensure that strategic planning remained under Sterling Capital Ventures oversight, while daily operational management continued under Rebecca's supervision. The structure provided operational flexibility while maintaining strategic control over resource allocation and business development initiatives. The governance framework established Rebecca's transition from independent business owner to professional manager accountable for performance results within a larger organizational structure. The adjustment required developing new skills and professional attitudes that emphasized systematic execution rather than entrepreneurial independence. Rebecca's adaptation to comprehensive accountability standards represented personal growth that would benefit both Sterling Enterprises and her own professional development if she proved capable of learning from the experience. The structured environment provided opportunities to develop capabilities that had been neglected during her tenure as independent chief executive officer, while requiring demonstration of competence through measurable results.
The week's intensive operational analysis and strategic planning established the foundation for Sterling Enterprises' transformation under new ownership, while providing Rebecca with her first experience of professional management in an environment where family relationship offered no protection from performance requirements. The systematic approach demonstrated that sustainable business success required disciplined execution and continuous improvement rather than relying on inherited advantages or personal charm to maintain competitive positioning. Most significantly for my own professional satisfaction, the week demonstrated that strategic acquisition and systematic operational improvement could restore value to businesses that had been damaged by inadequate leadership, while providing opportunities for meaningful professional development when individuals proved willing to adapt to higher performance standards. Rebecca's willingness to engage with comprehensive accountability represented encouraging progress toward rebuilding Sterling Enterprises into the professional service organization that Elena had envisioned when she established the company decades earlier. The implementation phase of Sterling Enterprises' operational restructuring began with systematic execution of the 90-day improvement plan that had been developed through comprehensive analysis of client relationships, financial performance, technology infrastructure, and staff development requirements. The transformation process required coordinating multiple simultaneous initiatives while maintaining service delivery quality and managing the complex dynamics of Rebecca's adaptation to professional accountability within a family business context. Client retention initiatives represented the most critical component of the improvement strategy because continued revenue losses would undermine financial stability while preventing investment in technology upgrades and staff development that were essential for long-term competitive positioning. The client relationship analysis had identified 15 accounts that were considering alternative service providers due to specific service quality concerns that could be addressed through proactive relationship management and operational improvement. Rebecca's direct involvement in client retention efforts provided immediate opportunities to assess her capabilities for relationship management and problem-solving under systematic oversight. Her natural interpersonal skills represented valuable assets for rebuilding client confidence, but her approach required refinement to emphasize service delivery excellence rather than personal charm as the foundation for professional relationships. The first client recovery initiative focused on Midwest Manufacturing Solutions, a family-owned business that had expressed concerns about delayed financial reporting and inadequate strategic business consulting during their expansion into new market segments. The relationship had deteriorated over 6 months, as Sterling Enterprises failed to provide timely analysis that supported the client's decision-making requirements during a critical growth phase. Rebecca's initial approach to client recovery demonstrated both her strengths and limitations in professional relationship management. Her genuine concern for client satisfaction and willingness to acknowledge service delivery problems created positive foundation for rebuilding trust. However, her tendency to make commitments without understanding implementation requirements created potential problems that required careful management to avoid compounding existing client concerns. The client meeting structure was redesigned to include comprehensive preparation sessions where service delivery capabilities and timeline requirements were thoroughly analyzed before making commitments to clients. Rebecca's participation in preparation sessions revealed her need for systematic training in project management and service delivery planning that would enable more professional client interaction and realistic expectations. The Midwest Manufacturing Solutions Recovery Plan included immediate delivery of outstanding financial reports, comprehensive analysis of expansion financing alternatives, and implementation of monthly strategic business consulting sessions that would provide ongoing support for their growth initiative. The service enhancement represented significant increase in value delivery that justified continued relationship while demonstrating Sterling Enterprises' commitment to client success. Rebecca's execution of the enhanced service delivery plan required continuous coaching and oversight to ensure that commitments were fulfilled according to established timelines and quality standards. Her learning curve was steep but encouraging, as she demonstrated genuine commitment to improving her professional capabilities when provided with clear expectations and systematic support. The successful resolution of Midwest Manufacturing Solutions service concerns resulted in contract renewal and expansion that added $35,000 in annual recurring revenue while providing positive reference for other client retention initiatives. The outcome validated the systematic approach to client relationship management while building Rebecca's confidence in her ability to succeed within structured accountability framework. Technology infrastructure implementation proceeded simultaneously with client retention efforts to ensure that service delivery improvements were supported by systems that could maintain quality standards while improving operational efficiency. The comprehensive technology upgrade represented the largest capital investment in Sterling Enterprises' history and required careful project management to minimize service disruption during the transition period. The accounting software replacement project began with data migration planning that would ensure client information accuracy while enabling enhanced reporting capabilities and automated compliance features. The new platform integration with banking systems and regulatory reporting tools would eliminate manual data entry requirements while reducing error rates that had affected service quality under previous systems. Rebecca's involvement in technology implementation required developing new skills in project coordination and change management that had not been necessary during her previous tenure as independent chief executive officer. Her willingness to learn technical aspects of system implementation demonstrated adaptability that was encouraging for her long-term professional development within the transformed organizational structure. Staff training on new technology platforms was coordinated with client communication about enhanced service capabilities to ensure that implementation benefits were clearly understood, while managing expectations about temporary efficiency reductions during the learning period. The communication strategy emphasized Sterling Enterprises' commitment to service excellence, while building anticipation for improved capabilities that would benefit client relationships. The parallel implementation of multiple technology systems required careful scheduling to prevent overwhelming staff capacity while ensuring that critical service delivery functions remained operational throughout the transition period. Rebecca's coordination of staff schedules and training requirements demonstrated growing competence in operational management that had been absent during her previous leadership approach. Client communication during technology implementation provided additional opportunities for Rebecca to practice systematic relationship management, while rebuilding confidence in Sterling Enterprises' commitment to professional excellence. Her natural communication skills were enhanced through structured messaging that emphasized specific service improvements rather than general promises about future performance. Staff development initiatives addressed the human resource challenges that had contributed to institutional knowledge loss, while establishing retention strategies that would prevent future turnover problems. The comprehensive approach included compensation adjustments, professional development programs, and career advancement planning that would rebuild organizational culture and service delivery capability. Compensation analysis revealed that Sterling Enterprises' salary levels had fallen significantly below market standards during Rebecca's cost reduction efforts, creating retention problems that affected service quality and operational stability. The compensation adjustments required substantial investment, but were essential for recruiting and retaining qualified professionals who could deliver services that met client expectations. Rebecca's initial resistance to compensation increases reflected her previous focus on expense control rather than strategic investment in human capital development. Her gradual understanding of the relationship between staff satisfaction and service quality represented important professional growth that would benefit her future management responsibility. Professional development programming included both technical training and soft skills development that would enable staff members to advance their careers within Sterling Enterprises while contributing to enhanced service delivery capability. The investment in employee growth demonstrated organizational commitment to excellence while creating retention incentives that would preserve institutional knowledge. The recruitment of 2 senior-level professionals with specialized expertise in tax planning and business consulting provided immediate service delivery enhancement, while enabling knowledge transfer that would strengthen overall organizational capability. The new hires brought current industry knowledge and client relationship experience that supplemented existing staff capability. Rebecca's involvement in recruitment activities required developing interviewing skills and candidate assessment capabilities that had not been necessary during her previous tenure when staff turnover was managed through crisis response rather than strategic planning. Her learning process included structured training in employment law and professional evaluation techniques that would enable more effective hiring decisions. Financial performance monitoring during the implementation phase provided concrete evidence of improvement across multiple operational metrics that validated the systematic approach, while identifying areas that required additional attention or resource allocation. The monthly analysis became foundation for continuous improvement efforts and strategic planning adjustment. Revenue stabilization was achieved within 60 days of implementation beginning, as client retention efforts prevented additional defections, while enhanced service delivery began generating positive client feedback and referral opportunity. The revenue protection exceeded expectations and provided financial foundation for continued investment in technology and staff development. Operational efficiency improvements were measured through reduced error rates, faster service delivery times, and increased client satisfaction scores that reflected the benefits of technology upgrades and staff development initiatives. The efficiency gains enabled capacity increases that supported revenue growth while maintaining quality standards. Profit margin improvement resulted from the combination of revenue stabilization and operational efficiency gains that reduced costs while enabling premium pricing for enhanced service delivery capability. The margin expansion provided resources for continued investment in business development and competitive positioning initiatives. Rebecca's growing competence in financial analysis and performance interpretation represented significant professional development that enabled more sophisticated management decision-making and strategic planning participation. Her engagement with comprehensive business metrics demonstrated intellectual capability that had been underutilized during her previous leadership approach. The 90-day implementation period concluded with comprehensive performance review that assessed progress against established targets while identifying priorities for continued improvement during the subsequent planning period. The systematic evaluation demonstrated substantial progress across all operational areas, while highlighting opportunities for additional enhancement. Client retention exceeded targets with only 2 minor account losses during the implementation period, compared to previous quarterly averages of 6 to 8 significant defections. The retention improvement validated the systematic approach to relationship management while building foundation for revenue growth initiatives. Technology implementation was completed ahead of schedule, with minimal service disruption and immediate efficiency improvements that enhanced staff productivity while enabling enhanced client communication and reporting capability. The successful technology transition provided platform for continued service enhancement and competitive positioning. Staff retention and development exceeded expectations, with no departures during the implementation period, and measurable improvements in employee satisfaction and professional capability. The human resource improvements provided foundation for service quality enhancement and business growth initiatives. Financial performance improvements exceeded projections across all metrics, with revenue stabilization, margin expansion, and cash flow improvement that enabled continued investment in business development while providing resources for strategic expansion planning. Rebecca's professional development during the implementation phase exceeded expectations and demonstrated her capacity for growth within structured accountability frameworks that emphasized performance results rather than inherited authority. Her adaptation to systematic management approach validated the decision to provide development opportunities rather than immediate replacement. The transformation of Sterling Enterprises from declining family business to professionally managed financial services organization represented comprehensive operational improvement that honored Elena's legacy while creating foundation for sustainable competitive positioning and continued growth. The systematic approach demonstrated that strategic planning and disciplined execution could restore value to businesses that had been damaged by inadequate leadership. Most significantly for the broader implications of the acquisition strategy, the successful implementation validated the hypothesis that professional management and systematic operational improvement could create value that exceeded the acquisition investment while achieving personal objectives that extended beyond financial return. The combination of business success and family relationship transformation represented achievement that would not have been possible through alternative approaches to addressing Rebecca's inheritance. The implementation phase established Rebecca's transition from inheritance recipient to professional manager accountable for measurable performance results within a larger organizational structure. Her demonstrated capacity for learning and adaptation provided foundation for continued professional development, while ensuring that Sterling Enterprises would operate according to standards that honored Elena's commitment to excellence and client service. The successful transformation created platform for strategic expansion that would enable Sterling Capital Ventures to pursue additional acquisition opportunities while building comprehensive financial services capabilities that served broader market segments and geographic regions. Rebecca's role in the expansion strategy would depend on her continued professional development and commitment to systematic excellence rather than relationship advantages or inherited position.
The successful transformation of Sterling Enterprises provided the operational foundation and financial resources necessary to implement the strategic expansion plan that would establish Sterling Capital Ventures as a dominant force in the regional financial services market. The systematic improvement of operational capabilities, client relationships, and financial performance had generated both the credibility and capital required to pursue acquisition opportunities that would create comprehensive service delivery platforms across multiple market segments. The expansion strategy leveraged the proven methodology that had restored Sterling Enterprises to competitive excellence, while addressing market opportunities that existed throughout the broader financial services industry. Regional consolidation trends presented systematic opportunities to acquire underperforming firms that possessed valuable client relationships and market positions, but lacked the operational capabilities or strategic vision necessary to compete effectively in an evolving business environment. Market analysis identified 12 potential acquisition targets within a 3-hour drive of Chicago that exhibited characteristics similar to Sterling Enterprises before its operational restructuring. These firms maintained established client bases and reasonable revenue levels, but demonstrated declining performance trends that suggested management challenges and competitive positioning problems that could be addressed through systematic operational improvement and strategic repositioning. Acquisition criteria emphasized businesses with annual revenues between $5 and $15 million that served established commercial clients or high-net-worth individuals through traditional service delivery models that could be enhanced through technology integration and professional development initiatives. The target profile focused on firms where operational improvements could generate significant value creation while providing platforms for continued market expansion. Rebecca's role in the expansion strategy represented an important test of her professional development and capacity for leadership responsibilities that extended beyond daily operational management of Sterling Enterprise. Her demonstrated competence in implementing systematic improvement initiatives qualified her for increased responsibility within the larger organizational structure that would emerge through strategic acquisition. The first acquisition target evaluation focused on Hartwell Business Services, a family-owned accounting firm located in Milwaukee that generated approximately $9 million in annual revenue through corporate tax preparation and business consulting services. The company had been established 35 years earlier by Robert Hartwell, who was approaching retirement, without clear succession planning or systematic documentation of client relationships and service delivery procedure. Due diligence analysis revealed operational challenges that closely paralleled those that had affected Sterling Enterprises under Rebecca's independent leadership. Technology infrastructure was outdated, staff retention problems had created knowledge gaps, and client satisfaction had declined as service delivery became inconsistent and responsive to immediate problems, rather than strategic client needs and long-term relationship development. The financial analysis indicated that Hartwell Business Services was generating adequate cash flow to support current operations, but lacked the capital resources necessary for technology upgrades and staff development that would enable competitive positioning against larger firms that offered comprehensive service delivery and strategic business consulting capability. Robert Hartwell's motivation for considering sale opportunities reflected personal circumstances rather than business performance concerns, creating negotiation advantages for strategic buyers who could provide immediate liquidity while ensuring continued service delivery to established clients.
His retirement planning required significant cash generation that could not be achieved through continued business operations without major operational improvements that exceeded his available resources and management capabilities. The acquisition proposal for Hartwell Business Services incorporated the systematic improvement methodology that had proven successful with Sterling Enterprises, while providing Robert Hartwell with financial security and professional legacy preservation. The transaction structure included immediate cash payment of $4.2 million, performance-based payments over 3 years, and employment arrangements for existing staff that would preserve institutional knowledge while enabling professional development and career advancement. Rebecca's participation in the Hartwell acquisition negotiations demonstrated her growing sophistication in strategic business analysis and relationship management that qualified her for expanded responsibilities within Sterling Capital Ventures. Her ability to understand operational challenges and communicate improvement strategies reflected professional development that had occurred through her experience implementing systematic change at Sterling Enterprises. The Hartwell Business Services acquisition closed within 90 days of initial contact, providing Sterling Capital Ventures with immediate access to an established client base of over 300 commercial accounts and high-net-worth individuals who required comprehensive financial services and business consulting. The transaction represented strategic expansion that would enable economies of scale and cross-selling opportunities across the combined client base. Implementation of operational improvements at Hartwell Business Services proceeded according to the systematic methodology that had been refined through the Sterling Enterprises transformation. Technology infrastructure upgrades, staff development programs, client relationship enhancement initiatives, and financial management improvements were coordinated to ensure comprehensive improvement while maintaining service delivery quality during the transition period. The parallel management of operational improvements at both Sterling Enterprises and Hartwell Business Services required sophisticated coordination and resource allocation that tested the organizational capabilities that had been developed through the initial transformation process. Rebecca's supervision of implementation activities at both locations demonstrated her capacity for complex project management and multi-site operational oversight. Client retention during the Hartwell integration exceeded expectations with only minimal account losses that were attributed to normal competitive pressure rather than service delivery problems or relationship management deficiency. The successful retention validated the systematic approach to acquisition integration while building foundation for revenue growth and cross-selling initiatives. The second acquisition opportunity emerged through industry networking contacts, who identified Crawford Financial Associates as a potential strategic addition to the Sterling Capital Ventures portfolio. Crawford Financial Associates was a wealth management firm based in Indianapolis that specialized in investment advisory services for high-net-worth individuals and family businesses requiring sophisticated estate planning and tax optimization strategy. Crawford Financial Associates represented expansion into service lines that complemented the corporate accounting and business consulting capabilities that had been developed through Sterling Enterprises and Hartwell Business Services. The wealth management specialization would enable comprehensive service delivery to existing clients while providing access to new market segments that required integrated financial planning and investment advisory services. Due diligence analysis revealed that Crawford Financial Associates had maintained stable revenue growth and strong client relationships, but faced succession planning challenges similar to those that had affected other acquisition targets. The founding partner was approaching retirement, while younger associates lacked the business development experience and capital resources necessary to purchase the practice and maintain competitive positioning. The financial structure of Crawford Financial Associates indicated strong profitability and cash flow generation that could support continued business operations while providing resources for technology enhancement and staff development that would enable expanded service capabilities and client acquisition initiatives. The business model integration with existing Sterling Capital Ventures capabilities would create comprehensive financial services platform that could serve clients across multiple life stages and business development phases. Negotiation of the Crawford acquisition required more sophisticated financial structuring than previous transactions, because the wealth management business model involved ongoing fiduciary responsibilities and regulatory compliance requirements that created additional complexity for ownership transfer and operational integration. The transaction structure included gradual ownership transition over 18 months, with comprehensive training and relationship transfer protocols that would ensure client service continuity. Rebecca's involvement in the Crawford negotiations required developing understanding of investment advisory regulations and wealth management operational requirements that expanded her professional knowledge beyond traditional accounting and business consulting services. Her capacity for learning complex regulatory frameworks demonstrated intellectual flexibilities that qualified her for broader leadership responsibilities within the expanding organization. The Crawford Financial Associates acquisition provided Sterling Capital Ventures with assets under management exceeding $80 million and established client relationships that generated recurring fee revenue through ongoing investment advisory and financial planning services. The transaction represented strategic diversification that reduced dependence on cyclical business consulting revenue while providing stable income streams and cross-selling opportunities. Integration of Crawford Financial Associates required coordinating investment advisory operations with accounting and business consulting services to create comprehensive client service delivery that addressed multiple financial needs through unified relationship management. The operational integration created opportunities for revenue enhancement while requiring sophisticated coordination of professional services across different regulatory frameworks and industry standards. The successful completion of 3 strategic acquisitions within 18 months established Sterling Capital Ventures as a significant regional financial services organization with combined annual revenues exceeding $30 million and comprehensive service capabilities that attracted attention from national industry organizations and potential strategic partners. Industry recognition included invitations to present integration methodologies at professional conferences and requests for consulting services from other financial services firms that were pursuing similar acquisition strategy. The visibility created additional acquisition opportunities while establishing Sterling Capital Ventures as an industry leader in systematic operational improvement and strategic business development. Rebecca's professional development throughout the expansion process had transformed her from inheritance recipient struggling with operational management to experienced executive capable of leading complex acquisition, integration, and multi-site operational oversight. Her growth represented successful adaptation to systematic accountability and performance-based management that validated the investment in professional development rather than immediate replacement. The expansion success created platform for additional strategic initiatives, including geographic expansion into new metropolitan markets and service line development that would address emerging client needs in areas such as technology consulting and international business advisory service. The systematic approach to business development had proven scalable and could be applied to acquisition opportunities throughout the Midwest and beyond. Financial performance of the expanded organization exceeded projections across all operational metrics, with revenue growth, margin improvement, and client satisfaction scores that supported continued expansion while providing substantial returns on acquisition investment. The success validated the strategic vision while creating resources for pursuing larger acquisition opportunities and more ambitious geographic expansion initiatives. Most significantly, for the personal satisfaction derived from the transformation journey. The expansion success demonstrated that systematic strategic thinking and disciplined execution could create business enterprises that far exceeded the value of the inheritance that Rebecca had stolen 3 years earlier. Sterling Capital Ventures had become worth substantially more than Elena's original estate, while providing employment and professional development opportunities for dozens of individuals across multiple locations. The business empire that had emerged from the catalyst of inheritance theft represented achievement that would never have been possible through conventional inheritance distribution. Rebecca's betrayal had inadvertently provided the motivation and opportunity for developing capabilities and pursuing ambitions that created value far beyond what passive wealth management could have accomplished. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.